He stole my ideas. I stole his future. My name is Caleb Nguyen. I'm 35, a marketing strategist in Chicago. I'm quiet, reserved, the one who observes, never confronts. I value hard work, trust, and integrity. When people betray me, I don't argue. I stay silent. I remember everything, and I plan. For 7 years, I poured my heart into Apex Analytics, a Chicago firm that thrived on bold ideas and big clients. I started as a junior strategist, fresh from grad school, my head buzzing with campaigns that could turn heads. Apex was a rising star, and I was part of its pulse, crafting marketing plans that landed us accounts with tech startups and retail giants. Victor, my manager, was all charisma, quick with a grin, quicker with a handshake, the kind of leader who made you feel seen. He'd lean over my desk, saying, "Caleb, you're the spark we need." And I believed him, my late nights fueled by that trust. The office was electric in those days. We'd huddle in the conference room, whiteboards covering my sketches, slogans, visuals, data-driven pitches that made clients sit up. I remember the night we won the Horizon Tech account, a $1 million deal I'd mapped out over weeks. Victor raised a glass at the team dinner, toasting to Caleb's brilliance. The table cheered, and I smiled, my chest warm, thinking this is my place. I wasn't loud like Victor or flashy like the account execs. I was the quiet force, the one who turned vague ideas into campaigns that sang. My desk a chaos of Post-its, mock-ups, and coffee cups. I worked weekends without complaint, skipped family dinners to perfect pitches. Once spent New Year's Eve tweaking a campaign that saved a faltering client relationship. Victor called me the backbone, and I nodded, believing it meant something. I wasn't chasing fame. I was building a legacy. Every ad I designed, every strategy one crafted, was for Apex, for the vision Victor sold us. A company that rewarded creativity, loyalty. I trusted him, trusted the team, trusted that my ideas, scrawled in late-night notebooks, were weaving me into something bigger. My parents' photos sat on my desk, their pride in my career a quiet fuel. I'd call them after big wins, their voices warm with, "We knew you'd shine, Caleb." I thought of them as I burned midnight oil, believing my work secured my future. "You're making a mark," my inner voice said, steady with pride. "This is your purpose." I didn't notice Victor's lingering glances at my notes, the way he'd parrot my phrases in client calls, his smile a little too sharp. I didn't question the closed-door meetings, the strategy sessions I wasn't invited to. I told myself it was nothing, that I was vital. But trust is a fragile thing, isn't it? You don't see the theft until it's gone. I didn't know my ideas, my late nights, my spark, were being siphoned, repackaged as someone else's genius. I didn't know that every campaign I built, every client I won, was laying a path for Victor to walk over me. But when the betrayal came, I remembered every moment, every pitch, every praise, every promise. I didn't forget a single one. The Chicago skyline glittered outside Apex Analytics, but inside, something was shifting, subtle as a shadow moving across a room. Victor's meetings grew longer, his voice louder, as he pitched campaigns I recognized too well, slogans I'd scribbled on Post-its, strategies I'd pitched in our late-night brainstorms. In a client meeting with Horizon Tech, he stood at the whiteboard, presenting a viral ad concept I'd drafted weeks ago, down to the tagline I'd spent hours refining. Bold, fresh, visionary. The client called it, clapping Victor's shoulder. I sat at the table's end, my pen still, my smile polite, while colleagues nodded, their praise for him echoing my words. I told myself it was a mistake. Victor was busy, leading the team. Maybe he forgot to mention my name. I'd always been the quiet one, content to let my work speak. But it happened again, a social media strategy for a retail giant. My analytics woven into Victor's pitch, his grin wide as the client signed the deal. "Great work, team," he said, his eyes skipping over me. Colleagues high-fived him, their chatter filling the room, while I gathered my notes, my chest tightening. It's just how it works, I thought, stacking papers neatly. He's the face. You're the mind. But the unease grew, like a crack in glass you can't unsee. I noticed Victor hovering over my desk more, glancing at my mock-ups, asking, "What's this, Caleb?" with a casualness that felt too sharp. He'd take my ideas to polish them, then present them in closed-door meetings I wasn't invited to. Once, I overheard him on a call, reciting my pitch for a new client, word for word, as if it were his own. I stood outside his office, coffee cup in hand, my pulse ticking faster. He's taking credit, my inner voice whispered, no longer proud but alert, like a warning bell in fog. At home, I replayed those moments, my apartment quiet except for the hum of the city. The photo of my parents on my desk felt heavier, their pride in my career now tinged with doubt. I sifted through memories, my late nights, crafting campaigns, Victor's quick nods, his good stuff, Caleb, that never reached the client. I didn't confront him. I never did. Instead, I started noting it all, dates, pitches, the ideas he claimed. He thinks he won't notice, my inner voice said, sharper now, cataloging every theft. But you do. I kept working, smiling in meetings, nodding when Victor took bows for my work. But my mind was a ledger, recording every word, every glance, every moment he thought I'd let slide. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger is loud, and I'm not. I was watching, waiting, my silence a canvas for something new. You built this, Caleb, my inner voice murmured, cold and clear. And you'll take it back. The conference room at Apex Analytics buzzed with anticipation, the Chicago skyline a gray backdrop through the windows. I sat near the back, my notebook open, expecting another routine meeting. Victor stood at the front, his suit crisp, his grin wider than usual. Big news, he announced, his voice carrying that polished charm. I've been named Director of Strategy. The room erupted in applause, colleagues clapping his back, their smiles bright. He basked in it, then added, thanks to my vision for Horizon Tech and our new campaigns. My pen froze. Those were my campaigns, my late-night strategies, my taglines, he claimed. I felt the room tilt, the air thinning as colleagues turned to Victor, their praise a chorus for his genius. My role, senior strategist, the one I'd earned through years of midnight pitches, remained unchanged, my name unspoken. Victor didn't glance my way, not once. I'd built the Horizon account, crafted the viral ads, yet here I was, invisible, my work repackaged as his triumph. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was a quiet theft, a knife slipped between ribs while the crowd cheered. I nodded, my face calm, my hand steady, but inside, something snapped sharp and final. Colleagues swarmed Victor after the meeting, their congratulations drowning out the hum of the projector. I stayed seated, my notebook filled with notes from campaigns now credited to him. Great job, Victor, someone said, and he laughed, his hand waving off the praise as if it were natural. I thought of my parents' photo on my desk, their pride in my rise, now tainted by this moment. 10 years of loyalty, of ideas that won clients, erased in a single announcement. He took it all, my inner voice said, no longer questioning but cold, certain. I didn't confront him. I didn't storm out. I stood, gathered my things, and walked back to my desk, my steps measured. Victor passed by later, tossing a casual, keep it up, Caleb, as if I were a junior again, not the man whose work had built his throne. I smiled, polite, my eyes meeting his for a moment. You think I'm done? I thought, my heart a steady drum. You're wrong. The office moved on, buzzing with Victor's promotion, but I sat still, my mind a ledger, recording every word, every smirk, every stolen moment. That night, in my apartment, the city's lights blurred through my window. I sat with a coffee, cold now, replaying the meeting, Victor's voice, the applause, my silence. They clapped for him, my inner voice whispered, sharp as glass. But you built it, and you'll remember. I didn't need to shout or fight. I needed only what I'd always had, patience, precision, and the truth he thought he'd buried. The betrayal had carved a wound, but it also sharpened my purpose. I wasn't fading. I was beginning. The office at Apex Analytics felt like a stage where I no longer had a role. Victor's promotion hung over everything, his new director's office a glass-walled shrine to my stolen ideas. I sat at my desk, surrounded by post-its and mock-ups now irrelevant, my fingers moving through tasks that felt hollow. Colleagues who once leaned on my strategies now orbited Victor, their laughter echoing from his meetings, their eyes sliding past me in the halls. I nodded, smiled, answered emails with measured courtesy, but inside, Victor's betrayal was a weight, pressing against my ribs, quiet but relentless. I kept up the facade. "Good work, team," I'd say in meetings, my voice steady, even as Victor presented another of my campaigns, his name stamped on my slogans. He'd flash a grin, tossing a careless, "Thanks for the support, Caleb," as if I were a bystander, not the architect. Colleagues clapped, their loyalty shifting to his charisma, leaving me a ghost in the room I'd built. The photo of my parents on my desk stared back, their pride now a reminder of what I'd lost. Not just a promotion, but the trust I'd placed in Victor, in Apex, in the idea that hard work was enough. Nights were harder. In my Chicago apartment, the city's lights flickered through my window, cold and distant. I sat with a whiskey, untouched, replaying Victor's announcement, the applause, the way my work became his crown. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was a slow bleed, a realization that my 7 years of midnight pitches and client wins had been erased. I didn't rage or call my parents to confess the shame. I sat still, letting the hurt settle, my mind turning over every stolen idea, every glance that dismissed me. "They think you're finished," my inner voice whispered, no longer warm but sharp, like a blade being honed. I watched Victor from a distance, unnoticed. He strutted through the office, his new title a shield, his confidence blinding him to my silence. Colleagues deferred to him, their chatter filled with his vision. I didn't argue. I didn't confront. I filed reports, tweaked campaigns, my face a mask of calm. But my mind was alive, cataloging his every move, his late lunches, his careless emails, his habit of leaving my drafts open on his screen. "They've forgotten you," my inner voice said, steady and cold. "That's your strength." In the quiet, I found clarity. My isolation wasn't defeat. It was a vantage point. Every slight, every stolen credit, every moment they overlooked me fueled something new. I didn't need their applause or their pity. I needed their blindness, their belief that I'd fade. "You're not broken, Caleb," my inner voice murmured, unyielding. "You're building." I sat at my desk, the office dark except for my lamp, and began to see the path ahead. Not a fight, but a reclamation, planned in the silence they'd mistaken for surrender. The silence of my apartment became my war room, the Chicago skyline a backdrop to my resolve. Victor's betrayal, his theft of my campaigns, his stolen promotion, had carved a wound, but it also sharpened my focus. My skills as a marketing strategist, honed over years of crafting campaigns that won clients, became my arsenal. I didn't shout or confront. I planned, my desk a fortress of notes, emails, and timelines, each piece a brick in a structure only I could see. "They think you're invisible," my inner voice said, cold and clear. "That's your power." I started with Victor's digital trail. My access to Apex's servers, a relic of my early days setting up their systems, gave me everything. I sifted through his presentations, finding my taglines, my analytics, my strategies, all stamped with his name. I saved screenshots, emails where he'd forwarded my drafts to himself, erasing my contributions. His mismanagement was there too. Over budget campaigns, ignored client feedback, rushed pitches that tanked deals I'd have saved. I archived it all, my fingers steady, my laptop's glow the only light in my darkened room. Clients were my leverage. Horizon Tech, my biggest win, had trusted my precision. Victor's recent pitches to them were sloppy, missing data I'd have caught. I drafted an anonymous report, detailing his errors, and saved it for the right moment. I found more. A retail client's complaint buried in Victor's inbox, unanswered, a budget overrun he'd hidden from the board. Each file was a thread in my web, woven with care. "He thinks he's untouchable," my inner voice noted, sharp as a blade. "You'll show him he's not." My apartment's walls held my plan, a hidden corkboard with names, dates, and connections. The board member who'd questioned Victor's spending, the junior analyst who'd seen his fumbles, the client who'd praised my work before Victor claimed it. I didn't rush. I wrote emails, unsent, each word chosen to expose without implicating. Professional, precise, devastating. I tested burner accounts, routing them through public Wi-Fi to stay untraceable. Every move was calculated, every piece placed to unravel Victor's facade without touching me. At work, I was the same Caleb, quiet, diligent, overlooked. Victor barely noticed me now, his director's office a glass cage where he preened. He tossed me busy work, saying, "Handle this, Caleb," his tone dismissive. I nodded, my smile a mask, while I copied his latest pitch, riddled with errors I'd have fixed. "He's building his own trap," my inner voice murmured, steady and cold. "You just guiding him in." I didn't need anger. I had patience, precision, and the truth he thought he'd buried. My plan was a blueprint, not for vengeance, but for reclamation, a way to take back what was mine, piece by silent piece. The plan I'd built in the shadows was ready to move, its first piece a quiet spark, meant to ignite Victor's downfall. My evidence, his plagiarized campaigns, his hidden budget overruns, sat encrypted on my laptop, each file a carefully placed domino. I chose Horizon Tech CEO, a woman who valued precision, as my first target. From a burner email, routed through a coffee shop's Wi-Fi, I sent an anonymous report. Victor's latest pitch, annotated with my corrections, highlighting inflated metrics and ignored client feedback. No accusations, just facts, sharp and undeniable. I hit send, my face calm, the Chicago morning buzzing outside. The impact came swiftly. By noon, I overheard colleagues whispering about a tense call from Horizon CEO. "She's furious," one said, glancing at Victor's glass-walled office. He was pacing, phone to his ear, his tie loosened, his charm cracking under her questions. I sat at my desk, tweaking a meaningless report, my expression blank. "You didn't see this coming," my inner voice said, cold and steady, like a blade finding its mark. Victor called an emergency meeting, blaming data errors on the team, but his voice wavered, his confidence fraying at the edges. I didn't stop there. A second email went to a board member, one I knew distrusted Victor's flashy style. Attached was a screenshot of an unanswered client complaint, buried in Victor's inbox, alongside a budget he'd fudged to hide his overspending. Sent from another untraceable account, it landed like a pebble in a still pond, ripples spreading. The board member replied within hours, demanding a review. Victor's office became a storm of papers and excuses, his laughter replaced by sharp tones. I filed papers at my desk, unnoticed, my smile polite when he passed by, muttering about glitches. No one suspected me. I was Caleb, the quiet strategist, the one who nodded and stayed out of the spotlight. Colleagues gossiped about Victor's sloppy work, their loyalty to him thinning as clients called with complaints. I watched from my corner, my mind a ledger, tracking each crack in his facade. "They think it's chance," my inner voice murmured, sharp with quiet triumph. "But it's you." I didn't gloat or linger. I moved with precision, planting doubts like seeds in fertile ground, each one sprouting questions Victor couldn't answer. That night, in my apartment, I reviewed my corkboard, updating pins with Horizon's response, the board's scrutiny. The Chicago skyline glowed outside, indifferent to the storm I'd started. Victor's confidence, once a shield, was crumbling, and he didn't know why. "You took my work," my inner voice whispered, calm and final. "Now I'm taking yours." I sipped my coffee, the plan humming like a well-tuned engine. This was just the first crack, a fracture that would widen, and I was already calculating the next move, the one that would bring his throne down completely. The dominoes I placed were falling, each one a quiet strike against Victor's empire. Horizon Tech CEO had pulled their account after my anonymous report exposed his errors, and other clients followed, citing mismanagement. The board, armed with my leaked evidence of Victor's fudged budgets and ignored complaints, called an emergency meeting. I sat at my desk, filing reports no one read, while Victor's glass-walled office became a cage, his pacing visible through the blinds. Colleagues whispered about his mistakes, their faith in his charisma dissolving. I kept my head down, my face neutral, my hands steady. "You built this trap," my inner voice said cold and clear. "Now watch it close." The board's verdict came on a Monday. Victor was demoted to a junior role, his director's title stripped, his office empty by noon. I overheard the news in a break room, colleagues murmuring about poor leadership. Victor tried to save face, laughing it off as a restructuring, but his voice cracked as Ty Askew. The team he'd once commanded avoided his eyes, their loyalty shifting like sand. Then, the board called me in. "Caleb," they said, "your work on Horizon was the standard. We need you as director." I nodded, calm, as if I hadn't orchestrated every step. I moved into Victor's office the next day, my parents' photo the first thing on the desk. The team rallied around me, their trust earned through years of my quiet work. My campaigns they now knew were mine. They apologized, some sheepishly, for overlooking me, their voices tinged with respect. I smiled, professional, and assigned tasks, my strategies, mine again, guiding Apex forward. Victor lingered in the background, pushing papers in a corner cubicle, his grin gone. He didn't look at me. I didn't need him to. "You took my work," my inner voice whispered, steady and satisfied. "I took your place." I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The office hummed with new energy, my energy, as clients returned, drawn by the campaigns I'd always crafted. The board praised my vision, unaware I'd been the vision all along. Victor's fall wasn't loud. It was a quiet collapse, built on truths I'd uncovered, delivered without a trace. I stood in my new office, the Chicago skyline stretching beyond the glass, and felt the weight of betrayal lift, replaced by something solid, earned. That night, in my apartment, I sat with a coffee, the city's lights a steady glow. My corkboard, once a map of Victor's sins, was tucked away, its purpose served. "You didn't win," my inner voice said, calm and final. "You reclaimed." I'd turned his theft into his undoing, not with anger, but with the patience and precision he'd underestimated. The team was mine, the office was mine, and the future I'd built was mine again. I didn't need applause. I needed only the quiet truth of what I'd done. The glass walls of my new office at Apex Analytics framed the Chicago skyline, a view that once belonged to Victor. My desk held my parents' photo, a few post-its, and a laptop were my campaigns. Mine again, set the tone for the team. I'd stepped into the director's role, not with fanfare, but with quiet purpose, leading a team that now looked to me with respect. Clients returned, drawn by the strategies I crafted, the ones Victor had stolen. Horizon Tech signed a new contract, their CEO praising my clarity. I nodded, my smile professional, the weight of betrayal replaced by something solid, earned. Victor was a shadow now, relegated to a corner cubicle, his laughter gone, his charm useless. He avoided my gaze, his reports piling up, unnoticed. Colleagues who'd once clapped for him now turned to me, their trust rebuilt through late-night strategy sessions where I gave credit, not took it. I rebuilt Apex's reputation, my campaigns sharper, my leadership steady. The office hummed with purpose, not Victor's flash, but my quiet strength. "This is what you built," my inner voice said, calm and clear, as I signed off on a new pitch. At night, my apartment felt lighter, the city's lights no longer cold but alive with possibility. I sat with a coffee, the corkboard of Victor's sins tucked away in a closet, its work done. I thought of the man I'd been, trusting, overlooked, pouring my soul into campaigns for a leader who betrayed me. That Caleb was gone, reshaped by the sting of Victor's theft, but not broken. I'd turned silence into a weapon, patience into a plan, and reclaimed what was mine. "You didn't win," my inner voice whispered, steady and final. "You reclaimed." I called my parents, their voices warm with pride at my promotion. They didn't know the full story, didn't need to. The photo on my desk, their smiles, was enough. I'd honored their belief in me, not with vengeance, but with integrity. Victor's name faded from industry chatter, his LinkedIn dormant, his legacy erased. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The justice I'd crafted was quiet, precise, a truth that spoke louder than his stolen applause. Standing by my office window, I looked out at Chicago's glow, my reflection faint in the glass. The betrayal had carved me into someone new. Not bitter, but clear-eyed, my silence a strength I'd never lose. "You ended it, Caleb," my inner voice said, soft but unyielding. "And now you begin." The team thrived, Apex grew, and I led, not for glory, but for the work I'd always believed in. My future was mine again, built on a foundation no one could steal.